Welcome back to another edition of Traits Triumph by way of What's the Play Productions. We're back with our second episode of the draft season. I'm Christian, here with SportsFan Brian. Last week they both had on their team apparel, so I decided to represent a legend. Christian Mingles from Towson University wore my own jersey. Yes, legend himself, myself. Don't do no research on it though. You might not find anything. So yes, that's and sports fan still got his Cardinals hat on. He's still rocking it with pride.
Oh
Glad
yeah,
to see that. But today
we just
we're
went
doing
off.
the running backs. Running backs episode. Last week we did our first mock. Be sure to check that out if you haven't already. Today we're gonna do our quick little running back rankings. It's not gonna be as long as a mock draft. We're gonna do roughly about a top 5, top 6, and then address any sleepers that we have. So yeah, Brian, sports fan. I know we all probably got the same number one, but we can get started whenever y'all ready.
You want to take it, JG? Or?
Yeah, okay, yeah. I didn't know we all had the same number one. Yeah, I got Devin Neal out of Kansas. I was looking at his tape, and I can say now it's obviously Ashton Jeanty, and I don't know. I think the hype has reached a whole nother point. I'm not sure the last time a QB is projected to go this high consistently, even with Bijan, or maybe I'm trying to think of running back before him.
Saquon's the
Then
last one, probably.
Saquon, yeah. What was Saquon's pick? Was he 4? Was he 6?
He was 2 in the actual draft, but
He was. My fault. Forgot what team he was talking about. Yes, he
yeah, I'm
don't
about to
too.
say
Yeah.
What a silly decision.
You draft the right player, then you waste him for 4 years. But it is what it is.
Hall of Famer. I don't know, but
It is what it is. At least you got a ring at the end of the day. But yes, as terms of prospect and hype, there's been little competition in the last, I don't know, probably 10 to 20 years, especially with the devaluing of the running back position. And Ashton Jeanty is, I have to say, he definitely worth the hype. Based on tape and advanced metrics, he averages damn near 7 yards a carry and got 300 plus carries in a season, which is unheard of, especially for a Boise State offense that really didn't have like the receiving weapons some other top running backs had, or like really a passing game. So yeah, it was really just all him, and he carried that team to the college football playoff. You know, for a running back of his size, I mean, what 5'9"? Let me get his exact weight. 5'9". Shit, man. According to this, he might be 5'8.5". I'm gonna give him 5'9", 211. He's definitely a shorter type build than a lot of other bell cow backs. That's usually 5'11", 5'10", 6 feet, 6'1", like some other running backs that's in this top 6, top 7. But Ashton Jeanty, he makes it up with really, really good, like just lower body strength. He really just runs through arm tackles. Recovery after getting through tackles, his contact balance is just it's a different level. I need to find the exact advanced metric, but it was some advanced metric on like every other carry he got. Not every carry, but like majority of his carries almost like explosive runs is like runs of like 10 or more yards. So I'm gonna find that, but while I find that, yeah, I can talk about it.
yeah. So I'll try to be a little brief, but basically from what I saw, I mean, kind of like JG said, he's the hype has become bigger than I think we've expected a little bit. I forgot about Bijan before we talked about it in our pre episode roundup because I was gonna say he's probably seen as the best running back prospect since Saquon, but I forgot about Bijan. But I did like on tape. I think he's probably the most balanced running back just in terms of running with the football. This may be a little hyperbolic, but I think that he has Alvin Kamara like balance in terms of being able to stay on his feet and being able to break tackles that kind of stay in stride.
I think that's valid.
Hmm?
I think that's valid.
Okay. Yeah, so I don't think there's anything that he really can't do. I think the only thing I didn't really get to see was his ability to block, but I don't think that'll be too much of an issue. But I'm sure we'll get to see more once he's actually drafted to a team. And I know we're not a fantasy football podcast just yet, but I'm sure he'll be the first pick in dynasty football drafts, rookie drafts for a lot of people. So
Yeah, I feel the same. I do. I am probably a little bit lower than you all are on him, but he is still my number one running back. Just on running backs in general, especially when it comes to drafting them, not only in the first round, but if you're considered drafting them in the top 10. I think Bijan showed, and we were talking about this before the podcast started. We, as great as Genty is, we still feel like as a pure prospect, well, a couple of us, I don't know if Brian feels the same way, but as a pure prospect, we would probably take Bijan over Genty. Just Bijan has a little bit more size and appears to have a little bit more speed and a more natural pass catcher than Genty is. But even Bijan is not necessarily influencing winning to the highest degree in comparison to what another position potentially could do. But at the same time, you cannot deny the production that Genty put out. It was probably the best, if not the second best, if not the best running back season in college football history. He didn't end up with the Heisman because the best prospect of the draft ended up winning it. But Genty's production is off the books, one of the best long distance runners we've ever seen. I wouldn't even say he has like elite speed, but his ability to break long runs consistently is something to behold. But my opinion on running backs is just would just always bring them down just a little bit. But he is still an elite prospect at the end of the day. That's why he's all of our number one running backs in this class.
Yeah, I want to briefly touch on maybe some of the teams that could probably be looking to draft. I know the obvious pick since Price, since Toy Power left, and the Cowboys clearly need a running back because Rico Dowd is gone. Definitely need a running back now. It's probably the Cowboys. Then we got some other teams that he made visits with, like the Giants, the Bears, the Raiders, the Bengals, the Broncos. So all those type of teams. I heard the Broncos might look at a running back. We might talk about a running back soon that I see as a potential fit for him. But I feel like whatever team he goes to needs to have a quarterback in place or a O line in place, or hopefully both. Um, like like Mingo said, if you go top 10, there's a chance that's probably not gonna be possible. I know. I think the most projected pick now is the Raiders, which before Geno Smith on the team didn't really make a lot of sense, but now that Geno Smith on the team, they might just do it. But we'll see though. You want to go to the next running back?
I think number two is probably where we'll start to get some differentiation. So my number two, Caleb Johnson.
Mm.
And when it comes to 2 through 6, it's very close for me, and all of them have their particular flaws. And so it's really just trying to envision what it would look like in a neutral scenario. And for me, they would all have varying roles, right? So Caleb Johnson, almost certainly not a 3 down running back at the beginning of his career. But again, similar to Genty, probably the second best production, at least in this last year in this class. And he ran behind a honestly NFL style pro offensive line because he was at Iowa, so that offensive line is going to be one of the better offensive lines in college football. So he did benefit from that. But his size, the power that he runs with, I could see him being a potential. I don't want to compare him to Nick Chubb, but having a similar role in that he's a big power runner who could potentially develop the hands later down the line. I'm understanding that third down is probably not going to be his down early on. So if I'm a fantasy guy, I probably wouldn't take him above Travion Henderson or some of the other running backs later in the draft. But day one production, I think first and second down he could control, depending on what team he gets to, of course, and have a big time impact from day one, and then learn third down and how to block, how to catch down the line.
Yeah, he's not my number two running back, but I'll talk about him a little bit real quick. I think, like you said, if he can develop the receiving game, he can definitely be a 3 down back. But now, for right now, I see him as a first down, second down power back, kind of more so one cut and go. He's not exactly as agile as some of our running backs in his class, but in terms of just power and more strength, I think he's probably the strongest running back in his class by far. And he ran a fast 40 than I thought he was gonna do. He ran a 4.5, right? So I thought he was gonna run a 4.6, maybe a 4.7. But he's definitely fast than what I thought. 4.5, not 4.57 be exact. It's not exactly the fastest in this class, but for a running back of his size, 6'1", 224, and the way he runs, it definitely will do. That's all I got for him.
Yeah, so I'll say combo for Caleb for later. Did you want to give your number two now, JG, or do you want me to?
Yeah, my number two is Amarion Hampton out of North Carolina. In terms of like bell cow backs, I know Jeanty is going to get the hype just because of what he did in college, which is well deserved. People are comparing to Barry Sanders and stuff and Emmitt Smith, which is always a worrisome comparison because it's a reason why they're Hall of Famers. There's not too many of them, but we'll see. But Mario Hampton, just in terms of prototypical running back size, what you're looking for both in the passing game, blocking game, running game, and Mario Hampton's kind of showing off. I thought maybe last year he had obviously a great year, but a lot of running backs had a great year last year, didn't have a great year this year. Like for example, Ollie Gordon, he's completely fallen off the radar compared to what he was last year. Amari Hampton followed up with another good season, even when Drake May is gone. So the passing offense is nowhere where it was last year, or the last 2 years for North Carolina. So even with the offense kind of pretty much on Hampton's back, he still did a great job, leading that offensively. So I see everything for working out for him. I know the Broncos have been, getting visits with him, interviews with him. So I think he'd be a good fit in that team, especially since Javante Williams kind of left. Didn't Javante go to North Carolina too? So if they replaced with North Carolina back whenever Carolina running back would look, be kind of seamless in terms of that. As a running back, his vision is definitely up there.
Yeah. So just like you, JG, I had. Oh, my fault.
No, you're good.
Okay, I was just gonna say, like JG, I also have Amarion Hampton as my number two back. I wish I could have seen a little bit more film of him being able to catch out the backfield. So I don't want to say I believe he's a three down back yet. But he did. From what I saw, he had nice vision. He has nice burst, nice speed. He ran a 4.46 at the combine. So that's not. I don't think that's too shabby given what I saw on tape. I also think he'll be a pretty good pass blocker. So I think that'll allow him to be in on third downs, even if he's not the most prolific receiver out the backfield. But yeah, so I don't have too much there. He was in my he is in a separate tier from Jeanty. It's just like my two through five is basically in like this tier two where I think that they could go late first, but most likely I would, if I were drafting, I'd probably take them second round, like mid second round or third round type of running backs. So it is possible that Hampton could sneak into the end of the first round if a team like Denver does think that they need a running back to replace Javante, even though they did just who did they have Estimate, but I don't think Estimate is stopping you from drafting a running back. But maybe not drafting a running back in the first round if you feel like you have other needs. So yeah, that's what I think on that front.
Yeah, my 2 through 4 all have basically the same grade. Like you said, I wouldn't necessarily say late first round just because they're running backs, but I would put it as early second round. I would take my 2 through 4. I have them all graded pretty similarly, and I have them all in different roles, so it's really hard for me to separate them. So I did have Caleb Johnson 2. I have Travion Henderson 3.
Okay.
Just because I feel like Travion showed at Ohio State at almost every year that he was there that he can be a star in his role. He did not pick up the same amount of carries as other running backs in this class because he was splitting carries almost his whole college career. He was never the true bell cow back. So I do think there's some upside there in which we haven't seen him have the backfield to himself. So if he is to go to a team that could utilize his skill set as a true starting running back, while still having to be a complement to somebody else, so he could be in the backfield with a Brian Robinson Jr. Sharing a backfield in Denver with, like you mentioned, Audric Estime. Two running backs who have different play styles, but you also need to have both of them at the same time. Because as good as I feel that Travion Henderson is, there's work that he just may not be able to do at the goal line. That hey, Brian Robinson, go ahead, get in there, punch it in for the touchdown. But there's also work that Brian Robinson cannot do on third down that Travion Henderson is probably the best in this class at. So that's what I have him at 3, just because of his ability to not only play a role, but and the lack of carries that he did get while in college. And so I do think he's more fresh than a lot of the other running backs. And just the upside I feel that he has because it's the unknown. We don't know what he looks like as a true bell cow every down back.
Just like Chris, I had Trey
Now,
as my number 3 because kind of as he said, the upside. I believe that he could become a 3 down back in the right situation. So, and I think that he had kind of like the other, kind of like Omarion. He has nice speed. He has some power behind his pad. So I think that he'll be productive right away. He'll hit the ground running. And as to Chris's point, having that less wear and tear should allow him to be fresher than some of the other guys. It should allow him to, and I think that'll also allow him to hit the ground running a little bit more than maybe say other guys who've had maybe 300, 400 carries, like every single season.
yeah, he's not my running back 3, but I can talk about real quick. In terms of more of a third down back, more, I would say outside of Ashton Jeanty, of course, he's probably the most agile uh, running back in the class. And then I want to say, you're going to correct me because with the college football playoff and conference games, it was so many damn games after the season ended. But I want to say it was one of the college football games, might have been versus Texas. He caught a screen and you just saw the acceleration hit a different gear that you didn't really see the whole year. But he's faster than what he really looks. And for a team that, like Mingo said, already has a power back that can kind of be a short yardage back, I think that's the perfect kind of space, perfect kind of place for Traylon Henderson to come in and be a third down back, quarterback's best friend, both. Because from what I saw, he can also block really well for his size. So I think he's a good fit that way. But my number 3 running back is Cam Scatterboo. Just based off, he might not have the measurables and speed that a lot of our running backs in this class might have just based on physical talent, but sometimes you just need a dog, and Cam is that dog. He put the Arizona team on his back, got him all the way to college football playoff, where they should have won that game versus. Didn't he play Texas?
Yeah,
They
that
should
was
have won that
Texas.
game.
That was Texas.
Cam went crazy both in the running game and receiving game. He was really out wide, doing double moves, slanting goals. He basically led all running backs in receiving yards. The only running back that had more receiving yards than him was a Navy running back, and I don't count Navy stats, both for quarterback and running backs, because it's Navy, and I think that's
You
if you
run it
watch
all the
Navy,
time.
they're running every play. So, um, or options that count as passes for some reason, but basically, Cam Scatterboo is a real 3 down back. His hands are way better than what people probably think they are. His contact balance, he actually more elusive than a lot of people think. He's not. He won't be a home run hitter. He'll never be that. But if you need a consistent, 5 to 15, 5 to 20 yards, I think he could do that. The more I watch him and more I think about it, it took me a minute to get to comparison, but it should have been quicker for based on the team I watch. He reminds me a lot of James Conner. Now you might not think of James Conner as like a crazy elite top tier back. If you look at any metrics for the last 2 to 3 years, if you actually watch James Conner play, he's a really good back. When he's on the field, and he's been pretty healthy this year. So um, they're still looking for a running back that's been good at James Conner right now currently. So just based on that, I can see Cam Scatterboo being that type of running back in the league once he kind of gets his stuff figured out like James did.
Okay. Before we move on to running back for Chris, I just want to say I appreciate Jalen for validating my thoughts of potentially
Hmm.
comparing him to James Conner because I was going to ask you about that later. He's my running back 8, and he's in my tier 3 just because he produced well, but I feel like he's going to be a guy that's definitely a third, fourth round pick, kind of like James Conner. Even though I think James Conner was lower due to other reasons that weren't football specific, but I think he's a guy that'll probably go third or fourth round, but has the chance to be, as you said, that 3 down back, that solid guy that can be your RB1 and you can have as a guy for years to come. So I'm I don't I wasn't bold enough to have him at 3, but I do appreciate that you have him.
Honest. Sometimes you just gotta grade off ore and that dog in him, and not like fake ore like other people on this podcast has done for quarterbacks for some reason, but more so just when you see him run that ball, you can understand he wants it more than people that's trying to tackle him. If he keeps that energy in the league, it'll probably work. You know what I'm saying? He's just him.
Yep. Duh. How dare I not think of that? You're right. Anyway, Cam Scatterbo is not on my top 6 list. But I'm sure he'll have such a um flourishing NFL career. I'm so confident in it, especially after SportsFan just eloquently explained himself. That's why he had Cam Scatterbo at number 3. But
I mean, he's better than Brian Robinson for sure, so I'm not too concerned there.
I don't know. But the James Conner comparison almost had me until I realized I remembered James Conner's 6'2". So I remember once I remember that piece of information, I'm like, yes, it's James Conner 6'2", 230, bit of a bulkier back, Cam Scatterbo 5'8", 220, that 5'10" is so fake. He's 5'8". He's 5.
220 pounds, man.
He's
Some
not
respect.
5'10". That's the
Oh,
fakest 5. That's the Kyler Murray 5'10".
how do you get
Who's
a fake
taller?
5'10"?
Who's taller, Kyler or Cam?
They're the same height.
So Kyler's 5'9", Cam's 5'9". But that's okay. I like Kyler. If Kyler can do it, I'm sure Cam Scatterbo can do it too. But what number are we on? Number 4. My number 4 running back is Amarion Hampton. And really, he looks like an NFL running back. Prototypical size, prototypical speed. Really, doesn't really have the wiggle that I look for. And so neither does Caleb Johnson, but Caleb Johnson is a bit more powerful than Omarion Hampton, so that's why I have Caleb Johnson higher. But again, I have 2 through 4 all similarly graded. I could see Omarion Hampton as a 3-down back before I would see Caleb Johnson as a 3-down back. But Omarion Hampton's blocking leaves a lot to be desired. And his pass catching, like Brian said, we haven't seen much of it. At least last year, we didn't see much of the pass catching ability, but I'm more confident in him developing that than I am Caleb Johnson. But again, the wiggle just is not where I would like to see it. Especially if he is going to be like a 4-4 guy who looks like they'll be able to be a little bit more versatile than just a power back, because I think that was the belief of him before the combine. And he comes out, runs that 4-4. It's like, oh, we might have a little bit something more than just a power back here. But Amari Hampton, this is a real Steelers running back to me. This is Mike Tomlin can't wait to get his hands on this running back. I hope he lands on the Steelers. Show them a running back that they haven't experienced, because Najee Harris was not that.
Can't wait to get his hands on. He hasn't experienced them yet. What the hell's going on here? Yeah. Nah, I agree with everything you said, of course. My running back 4, though, going back to running backs, I believe y'all already spoken on. Number 4, I'm debating between Carl Henderson and Caleb Johnson. I'm gonna go with.
You want me to go?
I'm gonna value the passing game just a little more. So I'm gonna go with Trayvon Henderson. So I believe, even knowing he's a better receiving back, of course, I still believe he's a damn good runner when needed. So I'm gonna go with him to give you more in the passing game. It's kind of like when Caleb Johnson's in, just you almost know that they're running the ball. But with Trayvon Henderson in, it gives you the opportunity to actually do both pass and running. So I'm gonna go with Trayvon Henderson. Um, we kind of already talked about him. That's my running back 4. Did you already say your running back 4, Brian?
My running back 4 is Caleb Johnson. So, kind of for the reasons that Chris said earlier. From what I was able to watch, it felt like he was a home run threat. Like every time he touched the ball, he has a pretty good burst, pretty good straight line speed as well. I wouldn't say he has breakaway speed, but he has pretty good straight line speed. And maybe it's just because he was behind he was behind, as Chris said earlier, in NFL offensive line, so it made him look a little bit better than he might be. But I just think he's a guy that he'll definitely be an early down back to start out. But again, I think that home run ability, just from what I saw on tape, I think that's what put him over my next guy on my running back 5.
You mind if I'm about to spin a block real quick? I'm giving new comps. Not James Conner. You all right. My apologies. David Montgomery. That's Cam Scatterbo. There we go. Now, wait. Not David Montgomery. Maurice Jones-Drew.
Yeah, Maurice Jones-Drew ran a 4.3, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
Maurice Jones-Drew didn't run a fucking 4.3? Where'd you get that from?
Brian,
No way he ran a 4.3. Hold on, now you make me. He ran a 4.3. Not damn.
I knew it. I remember that so vividly because I was like,
You were like, ain't no way.
chunky boy ran a 4.3. I'm like, yo, yes, Maurice Jones-Drew. Yep, find another one. Workshop that other one.
Maurice.
While you're doing that, my number 5. I believe for this number 5, this is not based on 2024 production. I believe he's still in there. Ollie Gordon. This was the number 1 running back prior to this season. I believe. But I think he may have been somebody who had experienced too many carries. And in 2024, he was on an awful team. And it's like you said, when you had Caleb Johnson, everybody knew Oklahoma State was going to try to run the ball. And it was not effective. Their offensive line sucked. Their quarterback sucked. It's like he got drafted into a bad situation early. The team sucked. I think the Ollie Gordon that we saw a few years ago is still in there. I was very disappointed in the 4.61 that he ran. I was very disappointed. But again, this is a big back, a big, tall, bruising back who I think showed a little bit more pass catching than we've seen from Caleb Johnson and Omarion Hampton so far. So I think he has a little bit more experience, but again, he's taken a lot of carries. He's been behind a bad O-line, so he's taken a beating last year. I think if you put him behind a good O-line, he has decent vision, and he had decent speed. I think he's still in there somewhere. I think just this last year, a bad experience. But Ollie Gordon, I loved him coming into this year. I couldn't drop him any lower than 5. He was my RB1 before I even knew about Ashton Jeanty as this crazy prospect. Ollie Gordon, number 5. And I'm going to change my number 6 that's on the list because I forgot about it.
You didn't know about Jeanty before the season, though?
Say it again?
You didn't know about Jeanty before the season?
Not more than Ollie Gordon.
That's crazy.
Ollie and another running back that we will probably talk about were the 2 big guys that everybody was talking about before the season.
Yeah. What's that podcast? NFL Stock Exchange? I'm not sure if y'all watched their podcast. They it's 2 reporters, one for the Jets and one for the Bucks, have their own like NFL draft, and they was talking about Jeanty way back when they first like revealed the college football running back rating, because Ollie Gordon was like I think the number 1 running back rated by far, and they was like Jeanty should be up there if he's not better than those. And well, Jeanty had that season, so they was clearly right on that. Mm-hmm. But usually you run back 5, right, Mingles?
Yes.
I'm running back 5. Did I already say Caleb Johnson? I don't believe I did. So it's gonna be Caleb Johnson. I'm not gonna talk much about me. I already kind of said everything. He's north-south power back. But I'm running back 6 though. Just to touch on that. That is Junkins. I don't believe he deserved some of the possibly running back 1, running back 2 hype that he was getting before the season, and I don't even think he was the best running back on Ohio State last season, but I see the vision with him, both literally figures. He has very good vision in the field, and one cuts, running 4.4 at the combine. He's very explosive, but I don't think he can be like the focal point of an offense like some of these other running backs. I think he's a very good complementary weapon. And right now, he's projected to go to the Commanders at pick 61. So, what do you think of that, Mingles?
No, I wouldn't hate it, man. I think Judkins playing next to Henderson. I think last year coming into the year, like you said, he was getting a lot of RB1, RB2 hype. A lot of that was really due to the college football game, but we can talk about that later. But Judkins, I think a lot of people did not realize the type of player he actually was. I think based off, again, the highlights from college football and the way that he looks, I don't think they assumed that he wasn't a speed back or somebody who was just so shifty. He's not that type of back, man. Not that type of back. He has good vision. Had little Le'Veon Bell-esque. Because I do think he has a bit of upside as a pass catcher. He showed that a lot at Ohio State. But again, he's another really north-south runner with good vision. And that 4.48 was a great time for him in the combine. Because I was thinking maybe like 4.55, but 4.48 for him was a great time. Shows that there is some long speed there to where you can expect him to break some runs, and so he won't be cast in that Brian Robinson role completely. Because he does show that he has a little bit more burst, a little bit more juice to him than a typical power back would.
Yeah, I want to quickly touch on before you brought it up real quickly, but about College Football 25 and what they did to his reputation. I think a lot of people think he's like a elusive back because for some
Yes.
reason they gave him the godly spin move of hell, and he could literally spin out the whole team when the game first came out. Eventually patched it, but if you man, just go watch the videos online. You could do a spin from the sideline to end up in the middle of the field and spin past the whole team. So I think a lot of people believe that he's that type of back, and then you watch Ohio State, and they realize he is not a running back that's based on I'm gonna call it wiggle or agility or like that type of type of move. He's not shifty. He's more of a power back than a lot of people realize. He's very north south. He has good vision. He finds a hole and he just goes and he uses physical traits and stuff like that to really run through tackles. He is not in open space juking and spinning people. There was like a clip of him trying to spin. He didn't go nowhere. But when he was stiff arming to shut out people and stuff like that. But I hope his reputation actually is better represented in the next football game that he's in. But given who makes that game and the current state of that game, I'm not having high hopes. So I'm expecting him to look like Alvin Kamara in 2.0 when he gets to
Yeah.
Madden.
Good old fashioned racism.
For sure.
He's definitely been typecast. The locks don't help. Anytime you see locks on a running back, you gotta assume they got like 93 speed or they're elusive or something. But that's not him. And they were comparing him and Travion Henderson to Sonic and Knuckles. And so
Mm.
I feel like if you was to just put a picture up and ask people who they thought was who, they would say Travion's more like Montgomery and Judkins more like Gibbs, and it's the opposite. But I don't think
Uh,
people know. He's been typecast, and EA Sports did him dirty.
Yeah. So I'll give my
Or
I'll give my RB5 real quick. So this will probably be a little bit more controversial given my colleagues' answers. But I decided to put Rashard Smith as my RB5 out of SMU. Um, so from what
gotta
so
go
the
to
reason
my
why
board.
why I
You got
picked
you got
him
names I don't
over
even have. Let's
go ahead, JG. My fault.
say I gotta look this one up, man. I don't even know this one. You got me. You caught me. I don't know this one.
Yeah, so Rashard Smith out of SMU, from what I saw on the tape, he seemed like the most balanced back to me out of everybody. Like, he was able to catch out the backfield. He was able to run with speed for sure. He ran a 4.39 at the combine. He seemed to have some power. He wasn't crazy power, but he seemed to have a little bit. But I think this is just more of a projection thing and seeing where like other people had him. But um, yeah, it's. I don't have a great reason to explain why I had him at 5, but it just felt like he was a little bit more balanced than say Judkins and Gordon, who I have like right underneath him. So
So now we kind of getting deep into the running back webs. I'm gonna say my next back is Damian Martinez out of Miami. Now,
mm,
I threw out that James Conner comparison a little bit before, but no, seriously though, Damian Martinez, he's 6 foot 232. That's a big back, and if you watch his tape, he ain't afraid to truck somebody. A lot of the things that Miami offense was able to do is kind of because how good Damian Martinez was good between the tackles and just picking the right hole and kind of powering through people. He was really good in short yardage when they needed it, and they was in short yardage a lot because they had one of the best quarterbacks in the nation. So it's a really good power back. There's a lot of good power backs in this draft, and I'm trying to remember last time there's been this many power backs that I would actually draft because I'm very anti high draft pick for running backs because if you think about the last 5 to 10 years, outside of damn Zeke was 2016, right? So
yeah,
outside of Zeke and Derrick Henry, I mean, how many power backs has really been really, really good in the league? Maybe Joe Mixon, if you consider him a power back, but it's not as easy to really use a power back have a winning formula, per se. But yeah, I'm gonna go with Damian Martinez.
mm. So my 6 was between Judkins and Devin Neal. Um, I've been leaning Judkins, so I'm gonna continue with Judkins, and I already talked about Judkins. Devin Neal would be my 7. Another talented running back, but another bell cow guy, who I feel like most people are familiar with, again through the video game. But Devin Neal, really good season. He really was a part of turning that Kansas program around because that Kansas program was a joke. Prior to literally like a few years ago, like they were literally like 1-11 year after year until like this new regime came in and really turned things around. And he was the bell cow back for 2 to 3 years there, and really held it down while he was there. And I believe that the 40 time doesn't necessarily reflect the speed that I thought he had. I think he ran like a 4.58. Disappointing 40, but still more of an agile back. He has the wiggle that we've been referring to. Not really the power runner. So just a different type of back that really in this top 6 you're not seeing a lot of. Like SportsFan said, it's a lot of power backs, a lot of north south, and they come in different sizes, different frames, but they're all very similarly power based. But Devin Neal gives you a little bit of that elusiveness that you're really looking for. So I have him 7, and then
Yeah.
I'll give a sleeper after Ryan gets his 6.
Okay, so my six was Judkins, and then my 7 is Gordon. That may be one that I potentially flip around, but I think I think I like the Judkins first a little bit more than Gordon's when I looked at the tape. But I don't think it's that much separating the both of them. So it's not. It's more like 6A, 6B to me than 6 and 7.
Well, my sleeper, big back, who I am very surprised ran a 4.46. I would be very surprised if he was not NFL relevant. Raheem Sanders out of South Carolina, with
Mm.
Lenore Sellers. I've been a fan of his game recently. And the 4.4 wasn't expected. I thought, like again, like a lot of these big backs, he could potentially run a 4.6, 4.5. So I do think he kind of fits in this mold with the backs, but in this class. But he does have a little bit more of that long speed that we're looking for. And he's one of my sleepers in this class. I feel like if he gets to a decent situation, he can put up decent performances and not necessarily stand out in comparison to the top 6. But I think when you get to the next 5, the next 10, he could be in the name as the best back in the middle rounds. So Raheem Sanders, my sleeper for this class.
Yeah, in terms of sleepers, to be honest with you, I can't even name just one because y'all can correct me if I'm wrong, of course. But I feel like this is one of the more deeper running back classes, not only in top talent with Jeanty
Yes.
being one of the most regarded prospects, but you can find, I'm not gonna say starting caliber, but at minimum rotational committee caliber running backs because a lot of teams in the league now have committees. If you don't have that bell cow, they're very fine running a committee. Even I want to say the number 1 seed, of course, the Lions had not a bell cow, but they had a committee until David Montgomery got hurt, and David Montgomery come back and went back to committee type format. So that's a very good way to run your team. Even Dolphins are just getting a bunch of running backs with the same archetype, but they still run the committee. Um,
Chiefs ran a committee
outside
last year too. After Pacheco
of
came back, they
Chiefs
will
run a committee, I think the Falcons basically still run a committee, even with Bijan on the roster.
like
Trying to think.
Jets
even
are
the
starting to do it.
Eagles. I mean, Saquon's definitely the bell cow there, but you'll see towards the end of like the first or the second quarter if they're trying to not the first, the second quarter. Gainwell gets a lot of touches in those games because they like to keep Saquon fresh. Like Gainwell has games where he gets 10 touches, 7 rushes, three catches. So it's like you gotta have a second, a third running back. It's very hard to survive in today's NFL if you want to be run heavy, and we saw a lot of teams shift to that last year. If you want to be
Hmm.
run heavy, you're not going to survive with just one good running back. The Chargers had one good running back last year, and you saw when J.K. Dobbins went down that that
And
offense started to look a little nasty. And I don't know what it's going to look like next year because they're going with Najee Harris.
God
So
bless.
I'm hoping they get like a Trevion or a
hear me
Devin
out here.
Neal.
Sound crazy. I think Najee Harris fits that offense very well, and he stays healthy. So we'll see.
That's what
Um,
that's what
Was
the
it another
Steelers Twitter
1,000
account
yard
said.
season?
Hey, y'all say what you want about Najee. He be on that field.
he be on that field. He'll get you 4 yards. I
Yeah,
can't say, but he'll get you 4.
I hope
And
that streak gets
you,
broken.
you concerned,
As a
you're
hater,
concerned.
I don't want him to keep getting 1,000.
You're concerned about Najee Harris. I'm concerned about them re-signing Mike Williams. I hope to God he's not getting serious. Routes on that field. Um,
That's their wide receiver. Well, not their wide receiver. That's their ex receiver right now.
that's not good.
Josh
But
Palmer's gone.
damn, he is. Where'd he go? You might
The
know.
Bills.
What a good pickup. Yeah, the Bills got a real ex receiver now. They was looking for. Um, they tried to trade for one. Amari Cooper didn't work. The dude they drafted, he wasn't ready. So now they got Josh Palmer. But in terms of running backs, you got Dylan Sampson. He's he's not exactly a power back, but in a draft full of power backs, he's definitely more elusive. He got the speed. LaQuint Allen at the Syracuse, he's more of a speed back. You got Jordan James, R.J. Harvey.
Donovan Edwards.
What'd you say?
That's a
Donovan
supreme power
Edwards.
back.
Donovan, Donovan Edwards, man, he's like the only like. I'm not gonna talk about him. He had a hell of a college career. He'll go down as Michigan history as one of their greatest running backs.
The crazy thing is he was not that good. He never had a good year at Michigan.
Yeah, but they
he had
had
big moments.
I'm surprised they didn't pick Will Johnson to put on the cover of that game, but I guess the running back had more.
Donovan Edwards had big moments as a Michigan Wolverine, but he never. I think last year he probably had his most rushing yards, and that was probably his worst season. I don't know how he was able to do that, but he was very bad last year. Once they finally gave him the keys, and I was very disappointed. I thought he was a pretty good back, but again, typecasting. He looked like one.
Come on, you can't say that. I knew something was up because the College Football 25 said he was a receiving back, and I said, for a running back of his look and his size, he should not be a receiving back.
Of his
And
what?
then they called him a receiving back. They said he was a receiver, a third down back. If you go College Football 25 right now on the roster, they consider him a receiving back. But then if you turn on his tape, you see why. Because he ain't no fucking power back and ain't no elusive back. So they got to give him some type of archetype and ain't the
Hey,
one.
that 4-4 is a good time for him though. So don't be
Yeah.
surprised if he figure something out.
You saying that, but the obvious thing is he gets drafted by the Chargers. That's the most obvious thing that could happen.
Hey, and I hope it works out. I think it'll work out if that happens.
I hope so. But even like past R.J. Harvey, you got the ETN brother, Cherry Etienne. He got potential. You got DJ Giddens out of Kansas State. Jaden Blue said he's going to run a 4.2, didn't he?
He lied.
He lied like that, but he got the confidence of somebody that's really fast. So maybe you can do something with that.
He did have the second fastest time though, running back wise.
Todd, yeah, but 4.2, man. Why you get a hope ups like that? And you had
No, he said 4-1.
Yeah,
he said 4-1 or 4-2 if it's a bad day.
Yeah, when we talk about the receivers, we'll talk more about that one. You got Todd Brooks out of Texas Tech. Of course, Raheem Sanders, like Mingo said. You got Jaquez Hunter out of Auburn. There's a lot of running backs, though. Probably at some point, be a part of rotation in the league, which is really good for teams that really just lacking in running backs. There's teams
everybody should have a starter by the season starts.
Yeah.
The Cowboys should not be starting Javonte Williams or Miles Sanders.
They should not be starting Miles Sanders. Yeah. Teams out there with Austin Eckler and Brian Robinson, nah, that can't cut it, man. Teams out there with Devin Singletary and
Tyrell Tracy can't be a starter.
Not if you keep fumbling that ball. They ain't gonna draft one though. I can tell you that, Brian. Just prepare yourself.
As long as it's not at pick 3.
Oh yeah, they ain't doing that.
Oh, right? For sure, they're not. But the thing is, in my opinion, I don't care unless you have like I'm not gonna say generational. As long as if you don't got a bell cow back in front of your running back room, nothing should stop you from drafting running back. The Bucks didn't let that stop them from drafting Bucky Irving. He had one of the best. So if you believe you can get a running back to even spell the guy you think is the back for the time being, get him. Because at some point, the running back one, unfortunately, will probably get hurt at some point. It won't be a long-term injury, but just, a bruise, a little ankle sprain here and there. Give them some time to rest, and you let the running back come in. You can see what he do. You gotta have multiple guys in that room.
Yeah, I think the Eagles probably the only team in the league who don't really need to. Eagles, I'll probably say the Seahawks because I feel like they got their guy and they got the backup. But the Eagles and the Seahawks. Oh, you don't like Charbonnet?
I don't like Kenneth Walker.
Oh,
Yeah, they don't seem to be big fans of the Seattle running back room in the K Cunningham room chat.
Wow. I like Charbonnet.
I don't think Kenneth Walker stay healthy enough.
I like Charbonnet though, but we can talk about that later. But I think the Eagles they could probably go without looking at a running back before the first 5 rounds, just because they got Saquon and they got his backup. But every other team, the running back should be fair game. Texans, Joe Mixon getting up there, I would look at taking a running back early. Ravens, I would look to take a running back. What other team? 49ers? Oh my goodness. Oh wait, no, they got Garendo. They good. They got Garendo. I believe in Garendo.
I don't think that's not.
I believe in Garendo. 6'1", 4.3 speed. I believe.
I don't think him and Jordan Mason stopping that.
Well, Kyle Shanahan takes one a year anyway, so that's probably really included.
And he's just gonna.
Cardinals. They just drafted one last year, but I'm hearing he might suck. So we'll just see.
I don't think that's stopping him either. Hey, hold on, James. But still, I don't think that's stopping him either. Seattle. The Rams just drafted one, but depending.
No, Blake Corum sucks. Blake Corum sucks. Come on now.
Did you know that Sean McVay just said the studs on the roster is Puka, Kyren Williams, and Blake Corum?
You lost me. I think you was doing good. Puka, Kyren. I thought you was gonna say like defensive lineman, but no, you said Blake Corum. I don't know why you said that.
I think our stud was Jared Verse. Let me make sure I read the tweet right.
What about Kobe Turner or Braden Fisk? Why Blake Corum? I think he's. I think it's one of those. He's trying to uplift one of his players. That has to be. He doesn't really believe that.
My fault. 4 offensive stud players: Puka Nacua, Tyler Higbee, Kyren Williams, and Blake Corum.
Tyler Higbee?
He said it, not me.
Oh man. Oh, all right. Never
really instilling.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. He didn't even name his quarterback. Yeah.
I mean, he's 35, man.
He's still a stud.
I think he's considered studs. Young guys.
No,
Tyler Higbee can't be that young
at all.
Tyler Higbee not like 28.
Tyler Higbee is like 31.
Way.
I definitely don't consider studs young guys.
Yeah, me 32. Yeah. Oh, you forgetting Sean McVay though? He loves his new block. Tyler Higbee can block.
Yeah. Those aren't studs to me. I don't know if anybody has anything else, but we discussed the running backs to a depth. So if you're unfamiliar with any of the running backs, come here to watch. We talked about at least 10 different running backs today. And we gave you some sleepers as well. So we hope you enjoyed this edition of Trace Triumph. Be sure to tune in next week. We will have a special episode coming up that will tie into the draft slightly, but won't exactly be draft content. So be on the lookout for that. And stay tuned for the next play.